Good morning once again. And this is the most structured part of the weekend, and it's a little bit structured, but we're going to try and keep it in the same mood of that we had yesterday. Let it flow and let things happen as naturally as they can. I want to welcome everybody again, and if I haven't said it enough, say it again, how much we appreciate everybody being here. This has been Jim's and my baby for the past 3.5 years. 3.5 years?
3 years, 1 month, and 6 hours.
And sometimes it has really seemed to drag. And then other times, I guess particularly before the closing, we were able to close on the property. The days and the weeks were going by much too closely. But it's hard to believe that we're at this point, and we've been truly blessed along the way. The opportunity that has been provided to us and our ability to provide this opportunity to others. And one of the greatest blessings has been in meeting people and making friends and forming relationships. And we're just thrilled to have everybody here, and the enthusiasm and the support and the encouragement that we've received on this project. And speaking of blessings, it's Harmony's tradition, and has been and always will be, to start any gatherings with a thanks for those blessings. So if you will, let me say a short prayer. Almighty Creator, we thank you for the many blessings that you have provided us. The animals, the leaves, the trees, the earth, all of the natural and the beautiful gifts that you have provided for our use. We thank you of the gifts of the people that you have provided. And we thank you in particular for bringing us all together today safely to try and do some good work with all of these wonderful natural resources. We also pray that you continue to bless us today with wisdom, patience, understanding, and that you take our friends home safely to their respective homes at the conclusion of our time together. Amen. Now, I know that we've had a day and a half or a day to get to know one another, but we thought it might be appropriate if we went around the table and did a very brief introduction of who we are, where we're coming from, and perhaps touch on some of our major interests as it relates to the project or your work at universities or organizations. And we'll start with A.G., since he is chair of the Harmony Institute Community Advisory Board.
Well, I'm A.G. Rudd. I have been involved with the Harmony Project since about early 1998. I collaborate with Alan Beck on a number of projects that we do at Purdue. And Alan is just a wonderful person to collaborate with because he's always coming up with ideas and networks and so forth and telling me about things, and I tell him about things. And he told me about the work here, and I was down here in January of '98 for an academic meeting in Orlando and hooked up with Martha and Jim and took a tour of the property and have been working on it since, helping with my interests. I'm a philosopher of education, and I'm also interested in institution building, and projects such as this really interest me. Startup projects such as this, getting people together, forming relationships and networks so that things can be built and moved forward. I'm the Associate Dean of the School of Education at Purdue.
I'm Alan Beck, thank you. Since 1990, I've been at Purdue University. Before that, it's been 10 years at the University of Pennsylvania. By background, I'm a sort of a ecologist, almost urban ecologist, with more of an epidemiology and public health orientation. I spent much of my early years studying why animals were bad for people, disease studies, did a lot of work in animal bite epidemiology, and then about 18 years ago decided to look at the other side and realized that our relationship with nature, which I've always felt strongly about, but even our relationship with our companion animals, is part of a whole continuum that has very significant health benefits for both parties, for the animals and for people. And came to Purdue to sort of redevelop their Center for the Human-Animal Bond. I'm at the veterinary school, do basic research and interactions and teaching. And I forgot how long ago it's been now.
August of 97.
August of 97, thank you.
At Luigi's Pizza Parlor.
Well, no, when I first got the call, that's right. I got a call from Martha, who I think was actually just looking for references and perhaps some networking in this human-animal interaction. I'm not sure how even she knew I existed. And we chatted for a while, and she sort of briefly sort of outlined this. And in all honesty, I kid her about this. I was not sophisticated enough to know that you can't do this. So I said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, I think. And she invited me out there. And over the years, saw how our good planning, good understanding of how to use land, how to use money, can really do things that's actually right for everybody. And it's really exciting to do a lot of small studies and keep talking about how someday we're going to have evidence to show how important our relationship with nature and animals is, but to actually now perhaps have the opportunity once and for all to really both prove it and be a model for what I think is going to be developed, normal development in the United States over the next century. So it's kind of exciting and a wonderful learning experience.
Well, Alan, fortunately, Jim and I weren't sophisticated enough to know you couldn't do it either, and that's the only reason we started.
Right. John Fisher, I'm from the Royal Veterinary College. I sometimes feel I'm the cuckoo in the nest here, having only met Martha a very short time ago. Just an interesting point from where we start from, that the Royal Veterinary College in London, we believe, is the oldest veterinary institution in the English-speaking world, and that although we've concentrated really on the training of best quality vets that we can find, and branching out into their continuing education and their associated programs of research and activity, my particular background, which I won't bore you with, has encouraged me to persuade the college that we should be looking for more outwardly into the world on a more holistic basis, so that we are looking not only to produce the best vets, but the best rounded individuals in terms of education. Because at the start of the presentation yesterday afternoon, I think it was almost amazing that you should read my mind and that you should start with a shot of planet Earth, because it really is a very small situation that we have ourselves in, and that we can't just have individual professions dealing with issues which have far wider ramifications across the whole of the planet. It needs to be bound together, and I think this has been reinforced, particularly in my mind, by the Rio and Kyoto conventions, the lack of progress in some ways, the tremendous progress in other areas. And so it's particularly important that wherever there are people of the right attitude, with the right skills, the right dedication, to seek out where they are and to bring them together to create a better planet, better conditions for both fauna, flora, and for the whole future of society as we know it.
My name's Steve Zawistowski. I'm with the ASPCA. I'm their science advisor and the senior vice president and head of the education division there. I have the wonderful option there of actually having a very limited job description. The past several years I've been able to branch out into a number of different areas. Among these have starting a clinical intervention program for animal cruelty offenders, tremendously changing our humane education approach, which goes back 100 years in terms of helping children learn and understand nature as a way of having them develop a whole and empathetic self. I've been involved in the study of the history of the humane movement. In fact, have a show at the Museum of the City of New York. I have to leave tonight so I can get there tomorrow and give a lecture at the museum. And actually, I met Martha the first time we had our ASPCA meeting here, and Martha spoke at our conference that we had at Disney. And she called us and was interested in our interaction with this, and I was very interested because something that Martha probably doesn't know is, among other things, sort of like Alan, part of my life was spent studying how institutions did bad things. I was involved in the study of behavior genetics and how behavior genetics was used to set up immigration restriction laws and a number of other different things. And so the opportunity to be involved with the formation of an institution and change in society that's in a positive sense is something very positive and very exciting as an opportunity.
My name is Kent Foreman. I'm the Vice President of the Evans Group. We're an architectural, planning and landscape architectural firm. Do work throughout the country, most of it here in the Southeast in the state of Florida. And it has been my great privilege to have been selected by Jim and Martha and David to act as the land planner on this wonderful community.
Yeah, my name is David Evans. I currently work for a company called Landsburg Development Corporation. Essentially, in the second half of my life, I've been a for-hire project manager for large land development projects. Prior to that, I worked for a planning firm a long time ago. And over the last 8 years, I've been very fortunate to be associated with the group who has allowed me to take a 2,000-acre parcel in Florida with virtually unlimited funds available and prove a lot of the theories that Jim and Martha have been discussing in this project and that I've thought all along. And by virtue of the relationship with nature in the project, and by virtue of designing projects that are landscaped properly and developed properly and built properly with the environment in mind, and prove that those projects actually do work and are very economically viable. And I'm excited. Jim and Martha and I met through a mutual acquaintance. And the second I heard what they were up to, I said, you know, this sounds like a nice thing to do at my advancing age right now, is to take all of these theories that I've worked on all this time and try to put them into practice. Thank you.
I'm Jim Lentz, Martha's partner and husband. I'm also general partner on a partnership that owns this project. I was guest introduced to the project when I met Martha, which we won't go into at this point.
At any point.
At any point. But I have been convinced through my relationship with Martha of the benefits of human-animal interaction and the importance that these animals can offer us as humans in dealing with the major social issues, specifically as it affects our very young and our old. So we're excited about it, and this project, which we'll get into in a minute, has sort of grown in its initial focus. And like Alan, I don't know that I would have jumped on the bus if I knew of some of the cliffs we were on during the ride, but we seem to be in a safer harbor, but one never knows. But we've progressed this a fair bit in a few years.
I'm Martha Lentz. My background is in marketing and sales. When I met Jim, I was in a job that I hated, so he said, well, why don't you quit and do some volunteer work. So I started volunteering at the Humane Society, and because I was the only wife that didn't have a job and was a live wire, I was asked to take over as acting director when the director left, and I stayed there for 8 years as president and director, and left in '96. And when I did, it was, what am I going to do now? Do I start another nursing home program? Do I open my own shelter? And knowing that there were just so many thousands and thousands of wonderful programs and work going on, I felt I could probably put my own skills to better use if I tried to do something that would help promote the work that was already out there. by bringing it together, the best of the best minds, the best programs, the best thinkers, the best ideas that hadn't had a chance to shine, and try and bring them together in one environment so a spotlight would be shown on the importance of our relationships with animals and nature, and hopefully to uplift the value so that maybe planners and developers and professionals and people in authority will wake up and say, well, gosh, if they're so good for us, why are we destroying them and why are we killing them? And, that's me. Pierce?
I'm Pierce Jones. I'm at the University of Florida. I am currently the Assistant Director of the Florida Energy Extension Service, and our job is to promote sensible or efficient use of energy and other natural resources in the state of Florida. Over the last 3.5 years, our group has moved steadily toward working with residential home construction. That just seems to be the area that works for us, and the primary reason that we got into that area is because we developed continuing ed programs for contractors in the state. All contractors in the state of Florida have to have licenses, and they have to have 14 CEUs every 2 years to maintain those licenses, as do architects. It's a different number, between 16 and 20 hours for architects, and realtors also have to have licenses in continuing ed. And we stumbled onto this as a means of getting the attention of the people that are actually out there on the ground making the decisions. And truthfully, I would say that many of them don't come to our program specifically for content, but come because it's a convenient way to get their credits, which they have to have for their licenses. One of the things that we discovered in doing this is that if we wanted to have any actual impact, it didn't matter if you convinced one builder that this was a good idea. That may be a custom builder who's building spec homes, and you might then influence over the course of that builder's career how many homes. Not many, to be honest, and that contractor might then be in the position of trying to find a realtor that understood the features in the home that made it more valuable. And then you had to have a home buyer that understood what the realtor was saying. And so we've now developed, based on that first set of programs, a set of programs for realtors and now for home buyers. And so we're trying to put on integrated programming at the county level. For instance, here in Osceola County, we already do programming for home buyers, for realtors, and for contractors. And our goal is to try to create entrepreneurial partnerships, profit-making partnerships amongst builders, realtors, mortgage lenders, to produce much more efficient housing than has been the standard in Florida the last couple of decades. And we're concerned not just with energy, but also with windstorm resistance. This county has suffered, even though it's not on the coast. Last year, there were tornadoes that came through here that caused a lot of damage. There are other things that you might not think about. Termites are becoming a big problem, and the different styles of construction are not always prepared for the new types of termites that are coming into the state. So these things, to me, are sustainable community issues, and our goal is to, as I said, try to help foster the development of these entrepreneurial partnerships that would see a profit in doing a much better job of building energy and water efficient housing. And so that's what we're about.
Thank you, Bruce. Roger?
I'm Roger Ulrich. I've been called lots of things. One thing that's perhaps fairly accurate is to term my work environmental psychology. Most of my research has used scientific and increasingly medical science methods to try to understand how human interactions with nature benefit their well-being and their health and health outcomes. And I've done studies in environments ranging from commuting streets and city streets and neighborhoods up through a lot of work on healthcare facilities. I'm professor of landscape architecture and also architecture at Texas A&M, where I direct the Center for Health Systems and Design, which is a interdisciplinary center jointly housed in the colleges of medicine and the colleges of architecture. And I'm attracted to this project because of the novel and very worthy goal laid out by the lenses. The notion of designing an excellent community that fosters interactions with animals and nature is an intriguing and very laudable one. And I'm attracted to this group because of its multidisciplinary nature and the sheer quality of the people on the board or advisory group here, and also because of alluring or intriguing possibilities that might emerge for research.
I'm James Serple. I feel as though I'm here slightly under false pretenses. Martha phoned me up and said she wanted to have the involvement of the School of Veterinary Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania with this project, and particularly was interested in having a veterinarian come to this meeting, and here I am, a non-veterinarian, representing the School of Veterinary Medicine. But I hold the chair of Humane Ethics and Animal Welfare at Penn Vet School. I also have recently tried to resurrect the Center for the Interaction of Animals and Society, which Alan established years ago before he moved to Purdue. I've been in the fortunate position of getting in on the ground floor, if you like, of research on human-animal interactions and relationships back in 1979, when there were very few of us indeed. And it's been nice to see this field grow and more people become interested in the impact of this interaction, not only on people but also on the animals. And I see this project as being, in a way, the culmination of that trend. This is a serious attempt to try and integrate these interactions in a beneficial way for both people and animals in a real life context. And so I'm very excited to be here.
Well, we're very glad to have you here, vet or no vet.
I'm Barbara Murray. I'm from the University of Central Florida. I'm a professor in the Educational Leadership Program. My current work is involved with quality control in education and the decision-making process as it relates to moral decision-making. I've also and continue to volunteer regularly in various animal protection agencies. My husband and I are whale spotters and manatee spotters for injured animals beachside. So I have a strong allegiance to nature and the animal kingdom. When Martha approached me, I was very excited to become a part of this project and look forward to working with everyone.
I'm Hank Whittier from the University of Central Florida, where, like Barbara here, I'm a professor. I profess biology, and over the past 16 years I've been director of the Arboretum at the university and run the Environmental Center, where we have programs that begin with environmental education for children in the creative school and continue all the way through to adult education. These programs are basically just beginning now. We've been very much involved with building environmental trails on the campus, and we do outreach to other nature centers in Central Florida. I want to thank you for allowing me to bring my partner, the dictator of the Arboretum, my wife Barbara. We've been working very much as a team over the years. Like all who've introduced themselves to this point, I share a very strong concern for the environment and for people, and a concern for maintaining or perhaps restoring some of the quality of this environmental and human interface. I have a very strong interest that goes back to, I suppose, my beginning as a country boy in southwest New York State, but extending through a couple of years teaching at University of Hawaii, where we had a very strong love of a rapidly degrading environment and very strong actions or activities to try to maintain it. And so when you invited me to participate here, I was very pleased, because I've Well, since we opened the university in 1968, I've watched a steady decline in the quality of our Florida environment, and it's absolutely marvelous to see an organization, a board, that is dedicated to intelligent use of the environment and intelligent development. I thank you very much for the opportunity to participate.
Well, we're very happy that you're here, Hank, and very happy that you're here too, Barbara. We're real sympathetic to husband-wife partnerships, so.
Very sympathetic.
Yes. No, Barbara, we don't want to skip you because you've got an interesting background, interesting work, please.
Barbara Whittier, I'm a high school biology teacher, graduate of UCF. One of the things that I felt as a result of getting an education was that I needed to give something back to the university. And part of that centered with working with volunteers in the Arboretum, nature trail development, interpretation. Currently, as Hank pointed out, we're working with an inter-school group right now from the Paramore area. And we've had the opportunity to make raised garden beds. They grow their own vegetable crops. Last week we took them over to the Playland area for shell collecting, swimming, and then went to the Canaveral Seashore Environmental Center, and they had a wonderful time. We put in interpretive signs. We've had Boy Scout groups come out making duck boxes, things of this nature, and a number of tours from elementary, middle to high school. And we have a very strong love for Florida and the natural communities. And I've lived in the Kissimmee area since 1952, and I've seen the importance of the, shall we say, the Disney Universal area and the growth that has occurred has provided a lot of jobs, a lot of homes, but it's also hurt to see all of the changes in the natural communities. And this is a beautiful opportunity to keep some of those natural communities in and around housing developments, commercial areas.
Thank you, Barbara. Judy.
I'm Judy Altos, and I'm from Florida State University, and I am a social worker and a psychologist. I'm currently the assistant dean and the director of the master's program at the school. My particular area of interest is gerontology, and has been for 30 years as of June, which is a scary thought that I've been that long in the profession. But nonetheless, I have. So my particular area in gerontology is in mental health, and in communities, and in caregivers of older people. And currently, and I guess this is why I'm so excited about this project, is that both as a personal goal, but also as a mission of the School of Social Work, we have as a creation of caring communities. One of the things that we do is, as social workers, we're usually in a position of going into communities after the fact and trying to make them more amenable for people, and bring in services, and bring in what we feel would be a no from research is importantly for the professionally, and opportunities for internships for students and faculty research, but also personally. I'm going to pick out my land for where I'm going to be building my home.
We're really glad you're here because, as David diplomatically put it, we're at advancing years. And, who knows? Maybe we'll see each other again around a retirement table at.